As we use technology to augment human capability, we're just simply using technology. Are we just really using simply this technology to reduce labor costs? Like, that's really the question. And those are just profound different philosophies on this approach. And in my view, I think as a responsible leader, we really need to ask the question, have we exhausted all opportunities for redeployment?
I'm your host, Kanya Olivier, co-founder of Company Bridge Program, and every episode, I sit down with the people inside the room, the HR executives, the employment lawyers, the financial analysts, the administrators, the consultants, and I ask the questions nobody asked them. What stayed with you? This is not a how-to show. My blog, The Exit Strategy, on LinkedIn handles that. This is the gut-wrenching, honest human side of what it costs to do this work. Tirzah Gabourel is a global technology executive and enterprise transformation strategist specializing in artificial intelligence, data governance, and digital innovation. She helps organizations solve complex business challenges through technology-driven solutions that improve performance, accelerate growth, and prepare businesses for the future. Hi, Tirzah Gabourel. We're going to go right into the questions. You have sat in the room where leadership is saying, our competitors are using AI to get products and services to the market faster. We have to do the same, or we lose our edge. What does that conversation sound like? What's the pressure they are actually under?
Having spent decades in operations, finance, supply chain, all of the, I can tell you that conversation around AI is just misunderstood. The public narrative tends to be that executives are sitting in this boardroom and we're trying to figure out how to work jobs. My experience is rarely that conversation. The conversation is really far more complex than that. What the leadership teams are really asking when they're talking about AI is, how do we continue to grow in such an increasingly constrained economic environment? They're really looking for answers around productivity without compromising the quality or the compliance. What I'm hearing is that there's rising customer expectations, but simultaneously managing all these inflationary pressures that we're currently under, or the regulatory demands, or even shareholder expectations. And how do we just go about that while we're retaining the talent in the marketplace, where these employees can just increasingly expect a modern digital experience? And what many people underestimate is that organizations are simultaneously managing competing obligations to customers, employees, shareholders, regulatories, even their community. And the pressure that leaders are under today is extraordinary. I mean, it truly, really is extraordinary. And these technology circles that I'm moving in, they're unfolding over, they used to unfold over, let's say, years. Now they're occurring in months. You see it, the way that AI has been evolving, it is nothing like it was 6 months ago. And those competitive advantages where history has lasted years is now only lasting quarters. So it's not really like, how do we use AI? Really, the question is, how do we ensure that the organization remains relevant 5 years from now, even 3 years from now? Because from what I can see, history is just full of organizations that have failed because they just made poor decisions, but they just adapted too slow. And with the rapid onset of where AI is taking us, it's very prudent for leaders to understand an indiscriminate adoption of where this is really a dangerous time for us. And so what I think is that, as technology is being implemented across different disciplines and governance and different change managements and things of that nature, it's not really necessary who's adopting AI first. It's really about what the organizations that adopt are most thoughtful as they're moving through their adoption process. I don't think it's a race. I really think it's like a disciplined exercise, and that's what's happening in those boardrooms.
When you implement AI and it creates role redundancy, it means people lose their jobs. How do you actually sit with that? What's the internal conversation you're having about the human cost of staying competitive?
This one sits really personal for me and quite candidly. I don't believe leaders should ever become comfortable with decisions that fundamentally alter people's lives. I mean, if those decisions have become routine or emotionally detached, and throughout my career, I've led large scale global transformations, implemented major enterprise systems, I've redesigned operating models. And despite all of that experience, I can tell you unequivocally that the workforce reductions have never become easier. And because every organization chart is really a human story, it's a career, it's a family, it's an identity. It's really a person's sense of contribution and purpose in the way that I look at it. And the reality is that we don't just discuss enough this at work. It's just not deeply intertwined in some of our personal identity conversations. Like for many individuals, losing a job or position is simply, it's just not a financial disruption. It can become like an existential disruption, in my opinion. And as leaders, we really do carry this ethical obligation to understand that and really acknowledge that. And the way that I see it, the internal conversation that I continually have, it's this. As we use technology to augment human capability, we're just simply using technology. Are we just really using simply this technology to reduce labor costs? Like, that's really the question. And those are just profound, different philosophies on this approach. And in my view, I think as a responsible leader, we really need to ask the question, have we exhausted all opportunities for redeployment? Like, have we really invested sufficiently in reskilling our employees? Have we really redesigned that workforce? Like, we really need to ask ourselves those serious questions. And because organizations are often misunderstood about the intellectual capability embedded within their people organization, that's sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle. And it really is something that we need to truly uncover.
We have seen companies like Klarna and Ford implement AI and then realize AI systems could not do the job, like take on complex customer service issues and nuanced issues. Describe what it actually looks like when you're executing a workforce reduction tied to AI implementation. What guardrails or practices are you putting in place to do this as responsibly as possible?
Yeah, it's a great question. By the time any organization reaches a reduction event, let's say, many of those important leadership conversations have already been made. And I just really believe that there are several essential disciplines that we need to first recognize. First, the organization has to distinguish between whether or not it's an automation or an augmentation or a transformation, but not every efficiency opportunity really needs to result in a workforce reduction. So the way that I sit in that is that, even though technology is creating the capacity that can be redirected towards innovation or engagements, let's say, they need to really organize what this rigorous workforce planning needs to look like. So in my opinion, those who are in the leadership position, they really need to look at the capabilities that are becoming obsolete versus the ones that are emerging. I really think like employees possess these adjacent skills that can be developed, and we really need to tap into that. And what does the future state of workforce architect really look like? And those are like some of the key things. But third is the governance. It's just absolutely essential. I just think in any major transformation initiative, it just should never be owned exclusively by the technology team. It really does need this close partnership with our executive leaders in HR and legal, in finance. And when we're taking it from that perspective, I think that's what creates a fair, consistent approach to these workforce reductions. I just think it's important that we don't forget the people and make sure that we leave the dignity whenever we're talking about a workforce reduction.
So this is the $1 million question. when AI implementation becomes standard across industries? What does your organization actually need from the executive leadership? Does that mean setting up training, checking on remaining employees? What would that look like to you?
You know, AI will become very standardized as it will start to become ubiquitous to everything that we do. It will become that. And I just believe that we're entering one of the most consequential periods in the history of the human resources or workforce profession. For decades, HR has often been viewed as like a support function. And what I believe is that in the age of AI, it really has elevated human resources into one of the most strategic, significant functions in our entire enterprise. Not only is the future challenges not like a technology implementation, but it really has become like commoditized the way that I'm seeing it. And I think the real challenge is going to be the continuous workforce reinvention and the organizations that will require this, their human resource leaders, whoever those are capable of serving as an architect for the organizational adaptability, I think are going to be the organizations that win. I really think. And historically, like these competitive advantages were derived from either capital or scale, or let's call it IP. But increasingly, I think the competitive advantage for our future leadership is what's going to become about our organizational adaptability. Like, how do we redesign work around humans' strength? Or how do we sustain trust during a perpetual transformation? Or what do we do for ethical deployment as an increasing autonomy system? All of those things are really going to be important as we start to move forward. But ironically, the more advanced that AI becomes, in my opinion, I actually think that the more valuable human attributes become, like judgment and creativity and empathy and critical thinking. I think like we're going to move where AI is going to be very affordable and the humans will become much more expensive. That's just how I personally take it. So I really think that HR sits at the center of all that transformation and has truly become probably one of the most consequential functions within the future enterprises. That's how I see it.
Thank you, Tirzah Gabourel, for having this AI conversation with me. Before we close, this is HR's Lifeline. Every episode, HR leaders and executives submit the questions they cannot ask anywhere else, anonymously. No names, no company, just the truth of what they're carrying. I pick one question every episode and answer it right here live. This week's question is, our COO wants to roll out AI to help manage performance reviews and flag underperformers before our next round of workforce reductions. As the Vice President of Human Resources, I'm worried this could introduce bias or make the process feel less human. How do we push back on leadership without looking like we're standing in the way of efficiency? Once AI is rolled out to help manage the performance reviews, there's some real risks, and it's your job to tell leadership about those risks. AI can recognize patterns of performance, and it grades everyone with the same paintbrush, and that's the issue. But performance metrics should be weighed differently depending on the actual job someone is doing, the tasks they're handling, and the roles that they're in. Someone's best effort and someone's mediocre effort look different from person to person, and that's not something AI can really measure. The kind of judgment should come from the direct supervisor or someone actually working alongside that person. Now, here is where you have to push back. You don't fight the idea of AI. You fight the liability it creates. Tell the leadership plainly, if this tool grades people with one paintbrush and someone gets flagged or let go because of it, that opens the door to bias claims and discrimination claims. And if it ever gets challenged, the AI flagged them, it is not going to protect the company. It's going to expose it. So the ask isn't don't use AI. The ask is AI can support the process, but A direct supervisor has to be the one making the final call on a person's performance. That protects the employee, and importantly, it also protects the company. If you are an HR leader or executive carrying a question you cannot ask anywhere else, submit it. The link is below. It's anonymous and it stays that way. If today's conversation hit close to home and you need support navigating a workforce reduction, the legal precision, the planning, the process, visit us at companybridgeprogram.com. And if you are seeing early signs that a reduction may be coming at your organization and you are not sure where to start, take our free workforce risk assessment on the website. It takes 4 minutes and it will tell you exactly where you stand and what needs your attention before the first decision is made. Follow After the Cut on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and LinkedIn. Leave a review, and if you know someone who needs to hear this conversation, share it. I'll see you after the next cut.